Oh shit, I'm sorry.
I really do hate beating the dead horse, but what I hate more is a lack of honesty and clarity. I have played Faceit for a few more days on an alternate account because you can't alias on Faceit and I didn't want people targeting me because I make videos and that's what people do. So no, I haven't just played a single round. I still do not like Faceit, alongside other observations I have made over the past week. So I have more thoughts that I would like to share about Faceit and related topics. Just a quick thing, if Faceit looks like your cup of tea, go try it. See if you like it. Don't let my opinion or anyone else's determine if you like or do not like the platform. So I'm gonna start with Faceit's current functionality, and I'm gonna reiterate a few things here. The main thing that bothers me the most about Faceit, and what seems to bother most people, is that they advertise their platform as a casual 12v12 experience, when it behaves no differently than a competitive matchmaking system. You wait to queue up with 23 other people, wait for a server, vote for a map, and get thrown in. Stopwatch mode is on, so you have a greater incentive to win faster, otherwise the game just simply ends. You get publicly ranked off of a win-loss ratio, players can't come and go as they please, there are rewards for winning, punishments for losing or leaving a match. Faceit has poorly disguised their competitive matchmaking system as a casual system, but I have already been over all of that. The next thing is that Faceit's anti-cheat is partially dictated by reports on your Steam account or your Faceit account. So even if you are a completely trustworthy player and have never cheated before in your life, let alone alter a game file with something like a config, but some random kid got mad at you and reported you, you might be forced to download the anti-cheat in order to keep using Faceit. This alone is a huge deterrent for people like myself that don't want shady third-party software on their computer. Not to mention the anti-cheat and or client don't work on Apple iOS or Linux or Windows 7, so I guess those players are just completely left out. They also fixed the map voting bug, in which players had to have a premium account in order to even vote for the map they wanted to play on, and they supposedly updated their ELO system for better matchmaking, but there is no clear evidence of that inside of a changelog. If you want anything that resembles a changelog, then they just redirect you to their Twitter or their Discord group, which doesn't tell us much. See, to me, if they are actively listening to player feedback, then they'd be a little bit more open about what they are changing or working on. Not that much has changed after the beta ended. In fact, hardly anything has changed between the beta version and the current version of Faceit, aside from the map voting system and the map rotation. I have also heard numerous complaints about Faceit temporarily banning players already using their anti-cheat if they take too long to load into a game queue. The longer loading times likely being partially driven by the anti-cheat itself, since it eats into your computer's resources. I have also heard that Faceit's robotic feedback and support system is largely useless for problems outside of simple issues, and it doesn't help with things like anti-cheat and client incompatibilities. If these two things don't work on your computer, you are just shit out of luck. Oh yeah, and if you do end up deciding to not use Faceit, or don't want their client or anti-cheat on your computer, if you downloaded the client, or were one of the people that were forced to download the anti-cheat in order to play, have fun removing it. You can't just uninstall Faceit's software. You have to manually go into your computer files to dig it out. Otherwise, it just stays there. And Lord knows what it's doing, thanks to Faceit's vague terms of service, for which the arbitrary statistic of 15 million active users doesn't make trustworthy. Now then, with all of the current functionality issues out of the way, let's move on to my more personal issues that I have with Faceit and recent events. Faceit, alongside with streamers and YouTubers, pushed the platform as the casual alternative to get players interested, since this is what the majority of the player base is looking for, when, again, it simply isn't that at all, for the reasons above and those I energetically outlined in my last video. And guess what? These guys are already backpedaling. If you've been keeping an eye out, these content creators are now adjusting their narrative to combat the growing number of complaints with Faceit. They started off by saying, treat Faceit like casual. It's the alternative to casual. It's the new casual experience. But now they've shifted to statements like, oh, it's semi-competitive. It's a semi-casual platform. You should just try harder to win. It's
casual. Compasual sounds better. It's structured casual.
We've gone from casual to structured casual to comp casual, and now to simply saying that Faceit is not casual TF2. Are you fucking kidding me? But don't just take this from the streamers and the tubers' mouths. No sir, take it from the mouth of the snake itself. Just look at this blog post from Faceit from a few days ago, and I quote, "We don't have a name for this new experience. A match where 24 players commit to play from the beginning until the end, and within a rewarding framework. It's a great TF2 match. Ah yes, now it's a new experience, and not the casual experience that they have been pushing for the past month." Man, all of this sounds a lot like a competitive mode to me.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
So, I'll let you take these statements and comments from myself and other content creators as you will. If you like Faceit, that's great. I hope you have fun with it. But here is my favorite comment about Faceit's quote-unquote casual mode. This is how the game is meant to be played. Could anyone mind telling me how TF2 is meant to be played that isn't based off of your own predilections for an enjoyable game experience? Because I don't think anyone can. I certainly can't. Some people prefer the intense competitive nature of a round of TF2, seeking out the objective, playing to win. Whereas on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the banana heavy. The beautiful thing about TF2 is that there has never been a set way to play the game. That's what makes it a casual game. Players have always been able to seek out a preferred way to enjoy TF2. So saying that Faceit is the correct way to play the game is, well, incorrect. I don't need some poorly consolidated and likely sponsored grandstanding telling me why I'm playing the game wrong. That's for me to decide, not you, and certainly not for Faceit to decide. It seems like people are trying to force a set way to play the game in order to facilitate what they think the game needs in order to be successful. Man, where have I seen this before? So, why the changing narrative? What's the deal here? That brings me to the next thing I want to talk about, which is what Faceit stands for. From my observations, both past and present, Faceit cares about one thing: streamlining the acquisition of your money and your data. Simply put, Faceit has baited people into playing on their servers. They're dishonest, or just clueless, about calling their system a casual experience, because, again, they don't seem to understand what casual is, and as soon as people started calling them out on it, they backpedaled. Or, rather, the more likely explanation is that Faceit does understand what casual is, but they need to keep their system structured as a competitive one, so that their for-profit point system keeps working, so that they can keep getting premium subscriptions off of people, and so that they can keep getting players to download their client and anti-cheat. Faceit also seems to be compensating streamers and YouTubers for advertising their platform. This is completely fine. This is the standard business practice for pretty much every company on the planet to generate interest in a product so they can sell it. But what is troublesome about this is that it seems as though the vast majority of popular opinions and attention about Faceit are coming from people that either, one, knew about Faceit before its public beta release, indicating that they themselves were involved in its development somehow, and therefore have a conflict of interest, or two, are likely being sponsored or compensated by Faceit in some capacity, in exchange for hosting streams, offering Faceit points for viewers, or making positive reviews or YouTube videos about it. All of this just baits in more players, using disingenuous opinions driven by monetary or loot bag compensation. It's not really a sponsored thing. No payments involved here, guys. None at all. Right. Can I confirm that this is exactly what is happening? No, I don't have proof aside from what Faceit is opting to retweet and say themselves in vague language, alongside my observations of what I would call violent shilling. It looks like to me that these people are spouting positive opinions about the platform because they are being compensated. This notion of mine being supported by the overwhelmingly high proportion of positive reviews to negative reviews from tubers and streamers, given the doubling down of tubers on the Faceit platform once people started complaining about it not being a casual experience, and given the appearance of streamers that I have never heard of before, suddenly coming out of the woodwork as TF2 streamers with over 1,000 viewers because they have Faceit drops turned on? There's some strong correlation here. Even Scrap.tf has a banner for Faceit. I guess we know where they're getting their items for their point shop from, but if that isn't the case, Scrap certainly wouldn't place that banner there for free. So it's pretty obvious to me that there is some outreach going on between Faceit and Scrap, but that's neither here nor there. Is any of this morally wrong? No, it's not. This is all, again, standard business practice. Perhaps morally wrong for some. But what bothers me is that this for-profit entity that is Faceit is just buying up streamers and tubers and probably their opinions for publicity, baiting in players to use their platform with their influence and with their misleading labeling of their platforms just so they can get more premium subscriptions and access to their users' data. That is what bothers the ever-living shit out of me. At least be honest about the product you are selling or the product you are advertising. Don't backpedal when people call you out on it. But my complaints are all relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. I understand that. People got baited into using Faceit and they're either going to like it or they're not going to like it. This shit like this happens every day. It just really bothers the hell out of me. By the way, this is not Faceit's first go about with TF2. Back in 2018, Faceit tried to dip its toes in the competitive 6v6 scene with a similar ranked matchmaking system, and it failed within half a year, because there were already well-established platforms for competitive 6v6, and Faceit couldn't get a foothold in order to compete with the pre-existing platforms. Not to mention, their system had functionality issues that made it largely unappealing in comparison to those other platforms. Faceit also got big competitive players to push their platform back then too. Hell, it's why I signed up for Faceit back in 2018. I was convinced that competitive, hey, it could be fun, when in reality, it just sucked, at least for me. The current Faceit servers are pretty much working in the exact same way as the old 6v6 system, and it just feels like Faceit took that old skeleton of a system from 2018, doubled the player count, and just changed the map pool, rebranding it as a new experience. And Faceit probably knew that they could do this, because Faceit sees TF2 as this money-making opportunity. They understand that we are desperate for something, anything at this point in the game's life, and they are taking advantage of that. I just want that to be clear for people. Faceit does not care about the game. They just care about making money from their investments. They care about appealing to as wide of an audience as possible to rake in more money, all while remaining beautifully out of touch. It just feels like I'm the only one that's noticing all of these things, and it's genuinely scaring me. It's worrisome that people are accepting these positive reviews from streamers and tubers as gospel. It's worrisome how people are so willing to compromise for a system that is just competitive matchmaking disguised as casual because Joe Blow Streamer Man shilled for a few weeks. It's incredibly worrisome how easily some people can be bought or won over. Oh god, I wish it didn't bother me so much. Once Faceit stops compensating streamers and tubers to advertise their platform with points and shitty knickknacks, look, we'll see what happens. I don't want to predict the future, but I'm not expecting any significant changes from Faceit. Their attempt back in 2018 has shown me that. And yes, again, deja vu, I'm seeing the exact same scenario play out right now. Faceit wants to keep their system as close to a competitive system as possible, so that their for-profit point system earns them money and data. Do I hope that it changes for the better? Absolutely, but I'm not holding my breath. that pretty much is the rest of what I wanted to share. I won't make another video about Faceit. I won't speak another fucking word of it. I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm fucking over it. I just want to get the rest of this off my chest and out there. Call me mad, call me paranoid, call me bad at the game. Fucking who cares? I'm just one guy. My opinions don't fucking matter. It's like pissing into an ocean of piss. But I feel like I needed to say something. Something was telling me to say something. So, here you go. Peace out.
When the crowd gets loud, it can burn up the